let's turn the page here. Florida State and Clemson. I'm going to ask a hypothetical question before we break this game down. Is Dabo in trouble?
I think we are. I think Dabo's situation and where he sits has not changed since what we thought about the Duke game. I think that there was a lot of people, and I was technically one of them, that were clowning on Dabo after the Duke loss. But what we already knew after the Duke loss, I think, remains the same. They didn't add any receivers in the portal or enough guys in recruiting to be a real threat offensively. Garrett Riley's still a really good offensive coordinator, and Kate Klubnik's not a bad quarterback. Like, he showed some toughness in that game. I don't think Dabo's in trouble. I think that they're still going to win 9 games this year because they're really good defensively and they're strong enough offensively that they'll beat the bad ACC teams on their schedule. But they're not a top ACC team this year. I mean, they're already out of the running. There's no way that they're going to find a way to finish in the conversation.
Yeah, Florida State would have to lose twice. Miami would have to lose twice. UNC would have to lose twice.
That's not going to happen.
No. Florida State would have to lose 3 conference games because they would have the tiebreaker over Clemson. So I mean, like, they're not competing. Like, their ACC reign for this year's over with.
I think that what we know about Clemson has just been reconfirmed. This is what the future is for them. You can win 9 games by doing a shit job in the transfer portal. You absolutely can. But you got to do what Florida State and like even North Carolina dipped in the transfer portal. Miami dipped in the transfer portal.
No, they more than dip.
You got to do what those teams are doing, man. You got to
get more than dip.
Yeah, you gotta get a spoonful. You gotta get some dudes. Go get some athletes when you have bad position groups. It all gets summed up by a kicker. You didn't have a kicker you trusted.
Which, by the way, I saw some of these Clemson fans getting on him. Bro, my man was on Wall Street last week. Like, you're asking a guy from Wall Street to come in to kick for you. Like, shut up. Shut up.
I mean, that one loser who tried to like dunk on me. Wait, what was that guy's name? I'm gonna pull him up.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was like, who is this Rudy Poo?
Whoever let that guy have an on-air gig for Clemson radio. God, that was a bad executive decision.
Yeah, it's South Carolina. Like
Morgan Thomas.
Yeah, poor Morgan Thomas. I actually challenged Morgan Thomas to come on this show.
Did you?
No, I'm challenging.
Oh, you're saying you challenge him? Yeah, he's more than welcome to. The guy's a dork. I mean, he's one of those passing chart guys. So he probably, would get talk. I could talk circles.
By the way, is there anything more overrated than passing charts?
It means nothing to me. The people that do those that are like, look at the green colors over here. Well, they look really good on this side.
And statistically and analytically, if you look at it this. Like, bro, people talk to me like, let me give an example.
Yeah.
I was in a Twitter Spaces last night, and somebody said something about QBR, okay? And I'm just looking up stats, and I'm like, I'm going to give you a blind stat. Jaden Daniels had a less QBR than Kyle McCord. By the way, Jaden Daniels had 4 touchdowns and 350 yards.
Right.
So if you want to make it QBR, which quarterback would you have rather had?
You can watch the goddamn film. Like that, I will say that a million times over. Watch the goddamn film. But regardless, the transfer portal stuff has come to a full head. It's bad. It's pathetic for Clemson. And I'm going to be honest with you, Blake. I'm done talking about them. They're not really relevant in the national conversation right now.
Well, here's the one thing that I will admit. There are 2 losses or an overtime loss to a top 3, top 4 Florida State. And they are, what is Duke right now? Like 16?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, on the road, they go on the road, they lose against a ranked Duke team. It's tough luck, but I do agree with this. But I say going to the portal, Joe, but then I sit back and say, does that fix Kate Klubnik's bad decision-making in the red zone? Does it fix Garrett Riley's quarterback draw in the red zone? Because it wasn't the talent that was vastly, Joe, talent-wise, Clemson was not outclassed talent-wise. What they were outclassed in was play calling and crucial moments. Like, bro.
Yes.
I mean, Bo Collins had some catches against Fentrell Cypress, who will be a first-round corner, that I'm like, God damn. Like, that's a great catch. I just think when the going got tough and adversity hit, Dabo's butthole was so tight you couldn't fit a greased BB in it.
Look,
he was nervous, man. He fumbled the bag down the stretch.
Yes,
he did, man. So did Garrett Riley. Like Maffa. I kept screaming, if I'm a Clemson fan, why are you not giving Maffa more of the ball? He had like 10 carries for like 70 yards. Like, give him the ball more. Stop trying to feed it to the white truth in Will Shipley. Will Shipley's a good player. He's not running for 7 yards per carry.
No, Maffa was running through people, but I don't disagree on the late game decision making was bad, but the fact that when I go to it was apparent in the game that a lot of the continuations of drives were to running backs, they were to tight ends, and they had a couple decent splash plays from receivers, but the fact that in this game your top performing guy has 5 receptions for 84 yards, and then the next closest is that was Tyler Brown. Jake
Barningstool.
Yeah. Briningstool is 3 for 47. And then we've got guys with 41, 38. And there's not a lot of guys that made impactful plays when they needed to. It's hard for a young quarterback to excel through guys just not getting open. I didn't feel like they were open. But my main takeaway here is look, Clemson's going to probably, look really good the rest of the season. They'll probably finish at 25th or something when they're 9-3. I really think though that this is, again, Clemson's not a bad football team. I think this is proof that Florida State is as good as they've shown.
I agree, even though they beat LSU, but I do think there's one thing that I really walk away from that game really worried if I'm a Seminole. You want to know what it is?
What?
Joe, they ran the ball 20 times and had 22 rushing yards. Hypothetically, let me just throw a hypothetical at you. If you can't run the ball against Michigan, if you can't run the ball against Georgia, if you can't run the ball against some of these better defenses, because there are better defenses out there, Joe, they ran the ball for 22 yards. They got there. Here's the truth. Clemson beat that ass up front.
Oh, yeah.
Florida State O-line got their asses beat.
They have – so I really think that the way that they finished this game shows that they've got the playmakers at running back and at wide receiver that when you need that big play, you can do it. The Keon Coleman touchdown is proof of that.
Right, I agree.
And I think that they've shown that they're going to finish this year as a top 4 team because they've already gotten over the hump on one of their harder games in the schedule. Now they got to beat Miami. But what I see from this is that offensive line got beat up against LSU and they got beat up again against a really good defensive front. And that's why I give Florida State a lot of credit for the win, is that they still found a way to win despite going up against such a defensively dominant team in Clemson. But you're right. They can't get beat up that bad against other teams. I really thought that Florida State O-line was going to be better. I really did.
Well, that's alarming. And you know what else? I tweeted this in the beginning of the second quarter, and I think I tagged you in it. I was like, can you please get Keon Coleman the football? Yeah. And then they finally did, and then he goes off, whatever. But good on Mike Norvell to see that I'm just banging my head up against the wall trying to run the football, and they did not have an answer. They didn't have an answer. It will be interesting to see how Miami can go up against this Florida State team. I do think that matchup is a lot more interesting than people give it credit for, because Miami's got dudes on both lines of scrimmage. Is Clemson's D-line probably better, or front seven probably better than Miami? Yeah, they're probably a little bit better. They're not that much better, though, from what we've seen through the first 4 weeks. They're not. If you can't run the ball on Miami with that secondary, dude, Miami doesn't look bad at all.
No, I continue to be impressed, and as much as it pains me to admit that I'm wrong, they do continue to impress me. That game, November 11th at Florida State, I think that is the defining moment on the season. We stupidly duped ourselves into thinking that this Clemson Florida State game was the defining moment of the season. Yes, it does tell us a lot, but the defining moment of who the best team in the ACC is going to be determined on November 11th.